Howdy friends, it's Jake at Walkie Farm. Talani, brush your teeth. And we've had rain. Won't do much good because, you know, that's all dead. All the green over there is gone to seed. But in a few paddocks, I don't want to sound ungrateful, in a few paddocks, that paddock over there and this paddock, there's a few little summer grasses coming up underneath. So we'll get a little bit. It's nice to keep something growing. We'll take anything, obviously. I haven't checked the rain gauge yet, but it started about 3 in the morning. What is it now? It's probably close to 9 a.m. We've actually got some friends staying with us. I've got one of my good mates' engagement party and his family's come and stayed with us. They've traveled down for the day. Isn't that calf growing nicely? So that mum there is a F1, short horn and goonie cross, and calf there's F2. I'm changing my grazing. I was going to strip them up. There's 2 or 3 days more worth of feed up here, but we've got parties, events, guests, the rain. I'm just going to drop the fence and let them have it. And I'm going to close the back fence so they can't come into here where they were the last 2 days. That squeaking is the suction in my Crocs. And I've got good news. Gugu, I know you're not allowed to have favourites, but she's probably my favourite cow, is bagging up, and I'll show you that. I just noticed this morning. So, pardon me while I try not to electrocute myself on this wet reel here. Rightio. Come on! So here's Gugu. She's fat. How do I know she's bagging up, getting ready to calve? Her udder's got a bit of milk coming in. She's looking for feed. Maybe we'll wander over behind her, but she's actually got discharge coming out. Hey, big boy, he wasn't going to wait for me. Talani's calf from last year, little bull. That's Talani there. That's her calf from this year, Kangu. Don. Silly idiot. Oh, yeah. There's Mickey. Hey, darling. So before I close that fence up, let's go and have a look at the pastures and see if we can't catch up with Gugu. Have a bit of a look. Some pretty ordinary feed here, but you know, when they're hungry, they're straight in. Body condition's still looking really good. As you'd expect, the feed only dried off a couple of weeks ago, so they haven't been on this lower quality stuff for too long. This is the work they've done in this paddock in 2 days. Laid a heap over, actually got some really nice ground cover. We've still got quite a fair bit of bare ground from when we yeomans ploughed it. We just didn't have the moisture to get good germination everywhere. See, this paddock has actually not had animals in it since we ripped it. And so that was in winter. So it's had 6 months of recovery and still just didn't have enough time to get full ground cover. But I think next year we'll get there. Even if we have another dry year, I think we'll get around to having complete ground cover in all the pastures around the farm, which is the goal. You can see the biomass difference. Yeah, it's quite nice. They're quite happy in here. That's one of Gugu's calves from a couple years ago. One of her little heifers. Who knows when she's going to calf. Lovely little heifer. A lot of these sort of animals that are 14, 15 months old, last year's calves, they're starting to really put on those bellies that make them look more mature and less juvenile. You know, when they're younger, They don't always get these big guts on them like the mums do. They're a bit more ganglier, look a bit more like a teenager, but they're starting to fill out even though they're still very small. Here's little calf Scoop and her mum Gelato. Can you see what I mean? Her stomach just starting to get a bit of shape to it. She's starting to thicken up a little bit. Hey, I love your hide. Gorgeous little animal, aren't she, Scoop? Scoop and Gelato are quite often the last through a fence into a new paddock. And if they get turned around and don't come through, they are nightmares. They get really skittish by themselves. They really don't like being left alone. Now, when we talk about mobbing our cattle up small areas, I'm not too worried about this. Like, I'll leave them, you can see the line there, up to that fence, probably 3 days, maybe 4. And that's sort of right on the limit. I wouldn't want to give them a paddock bigger than that. We're not damaging the grass because it's not growing, so it's not like we're going to get a second bite and upset stuff, but we do want to get another lap in around the farm. I've got another decision to make, folks. I want to graze this riparian area. We've got all those green perennials down the base that have set seed. I'd love to mow them down because I'll get another growth out of them. It's not much volume. We're probably talking that whole area, a day and a half of feed for the cattle. Every day matters. 3 days of feed is a year of, it's 1% of your annual feed budget. So if you can scratch a day here and a day there, you start to make a difference. But I've also got half the farm, 30 hectares, is that timbered steep country up there. You can see there's very marginal feed under the trees, but over the hill there's a few nice south facing slopes that are pretty open and fair bit of feed there. The cows haven't been out there since what was it? Would have been like middle of winter. They were out there, so that's sort of four or so months. There's not heaps of feed out there. Hey Poppy, there's not heaps of feed out there because it got smoked by the kangaroos over winter, but it's enough to make it worthwhile. So Gugu here, 10-year-old. Last year, she calved in January, which was that red heifer that I just showed you there. And last year, she calved in December, which is that brown bull calf there, who we named Dundon. You got a mouthful too. So there's her 2 calves from last year. Both born in the same year. And it looks like this year, her intercalving period is going to be basically, if she drops in the next week, I can look up the date when Dundon was born, but it's basically going to be exactly 365 days, guys. This is exciting. Look at this. Look at that. That's the first time I've seen this on the farm. We have Phalaris in the middle of a pasture. Everywhere else it is in the riparian area. That's excluded and gets grazed less than half as often as the pastures. This is the very first time I've noticed it in the pasture, and a lot of farmers sort of ho-hum about Phalaris. Like, I don't know if it's Phalaris or Phalaris. I guess it just depends where you're from and how you want to say it. These are very young perennial plants because look, there's hardly any crown down there. You've just got 2 stems coming out and there's no big burly mass. I can feel a few of the big roots in there. So I've got 1 plant, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this little area. This is the very first time I've seen this in the paddock and I actually love it. A lot of farmers don't. It definitely can become a bit of a dominant species in the pasture. I think just with general grazing management like we do, I'm not too concerned about that happening. But the reason I love it is look at all this annual stuff. It's all dried off. This is still green. Obviously it's finished growing, but its growing season was longer. It's a perennial, which means it doesn't have to regerminate every year. It just grows from the same established root system, and it can really tolerate heat. So if you've got a bit of this established in your pasture and you're in the middle of January, which is our hot season. January and February are quite hot months. You know, we'll be getting, in a hot year, we'll be having low 40 Celsius days, 42, 43 degrees. The hottest I think I've ever seen on the thermostat is 47. The road melts, the bitumen on the road melts. If you get a dump of rain and you've got this in your pasture and it's 40 degrees outside, that'll grow. Those perennial roots will activate with that moisture and you'll grow feed in the middle of summer. Another plant that's great for that is sorghum, Sudanese grass. That's an annual, grows enormous biomass. So it's very interesting to me that the first place I found that on the farm in a pasture is the paddock that got a double rest, got skipped on the first rotation. So that'll get grazed. The cows here will sniff it out. That'll be gone in 15 minutes. There's no problem with that. But those roots are established, so they can eat the top. It might start to reshoot in 3 or 4 days with a bit of moisture here and a bit of energy out of its roots because it can handle this weather. But that's okay, because the cows won't be back here for months, and that little summer plant, that plant that can grow in summer, is going to have the opportunity to really get going. So I'm excited. That's a step in the right direction. They're good signals. You're going around constantly observing and adjusting your management. I just want to show you Gugu here. I think she might be closer than I think, because she's not normally, see that discharge hanging off? She's not normally trying to get away from me like this. She normally really lets me come close and, you know, basically scratch her. So, but isn't it interesting? You give them a bigger area and they're running all over the place, back and forward, back and forward. It's less because I'm disrupting them. It's more because they're competing for the most palatable plants. Whereas if I gave them an area the 10th of this, they wouldn't be moving. It'll just be heads down, bum up. But like I said, it's going to be a 3-day paddock. That's about my limit. We've just got too much social stuff on at the moment to come out here. I've started to run out of fencing equipment. I've run out of step-ins. I took a heap to another farm to build some laneways and I never brought them back, so I'm a bit shy on that sort of infrastructure. I'm also welding up a mineral trailer at the moment, and I need to build another brooder. Otto and I are hatching sort of 6 to 12 chicks a day at the moment, and the little IBC brooder I have is at capacity. I went down there this morning and I had a crushed little Fiumi chick, which I was upset about. It was only a day old, and it's in that tiny little IBC brooder with some birds that are about 3 or 4 weeks older. So what I really need to do is have a brooder for that first 2 weeks while the birds are small, to keep the bigger, heavier birds off them, and then I need to have another brooder for, you know, probably week 2 to week 5 until they can go out on pasture. This time of year it's pretty warm all the time. Put them in a shelter out there. So yeah, I want to probably graze the back block a little bit to buy myself some more time. 3 days is 1% of your yearly budget, but we're going to finish this. Be interested to see what you think. Maybe this could be another YouTube decision, but I think we're going to graze this riparian area first, and then we're going to let that hill keep going. You can see the line where the yeoman's plough ripped onto. Isn't that incredible? We're going to let that keep going. We're going to let that keep going. There's not much growth in there, but I might just turn them out. And that's a 30-hectare paddock with no infrastructure in it. I don't know how I'm going to tackle that. The only way I've really thought about managing them up there properly is getting the Gallagher E-Shepherd collars. I have registered my expression of interest with Gallagher solar-powered collars to do remote fencing with your cattle, and it's cost-effective. And they're currently trying to make it legal. Of course, it's illegal at the moment in Australia. But the only concern I have is Joel Hollingsworth, a friend of mine from Smoky River Ranch in America, put them on his herd, and he's got horned cattle similar to mine, and they've been busting the collars off each other, just scratching. You know, they just get up there and scratch, and they hook a horn under the chain and pull, and they snap it off. It's going to be enough of a drama to run them through my yards and fit them to everybody without getting killed. To have to go and continuously upgrade them and refit them, you know, maybe I'll let that system mature a little bit more. So, yeah, I could probably let them go in that bush block for 3 weeks, and they'd be fine. And it's not ideal management there, but we've just got to work within the system we've got and consistently make improvements as we go. I get a little bit, what's the word? I don't get down, I get frustrated with the lack of progress. You know, I've got a job list a mile long and I'm aggressively chomping away at it, but I get frustrated that I haven't done more. It's a bit of a nice reality check, I guess. We had some visitors yesterday from a farm up north, no idea who they were. They just asked, they wanted to see the butchery and see the farm. We get a lot of people dropping in, and I said, yeah, I'm free that day, drop on in. And we've gone around the farm and I've shown them what we do and what we've done. And they were like, Jake, have you done all this in 2 years? I said, yeah, we've been, you know, it's not what we wanted. Like, we were hoping to be a bit further along than this, but yeah, that's what, and they just couldn't believe it. And like I said, it's just a nice reference point to not get too hard on yourself. You know, we do have 3 kids and multiple businesses to run, but that's all right. That's what we do. Look at all the grass seed in that poo. Unreal. Rightio, folks, that's me for the day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video.